Hello, it's Lindsay from Celebrant Training Scotland on talking about being a celebrant. Now, this video is primarily about being a funeral celebrant, but I am going to mention what it takes to become a wedding celebrant, because lots of people reach out and say, I want to become a celebrant, and I never quite know what that means, or I want to become a wedding celebrant, or indeed I want to become a wedding and a funeral celebrant. And those are two very different things. So I'm going to talk about them and then talk about some training that we've got coming up later in the year. So becoming a funeral celebrant is really pretty straightforward. In fact, anybody can set themselves up as a funeral celebrant. The funeral industry is not regulated, and so that means there's no formal qualification that you need to have enabled to go out and become a funeral celebrant. So you can just say, do you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be a funeral celebrant. I would not advise it, because what that means is you're going to be making stuff up as you go along. And that is not a good thing, especially for the family that you're going to be dealing with. They deserve more. So please, if you're thinking of doing this, get yourself some quality training. And so that's your first step. Finding a good training provider and speaking to them. And if you're a fit and they're willing to accept you on the course, then you go and do your training with them. When you come out the other side and you're ready, you go out and you market yourself as a funeral celebrant. And some celebrants, I've trained now about 70 funeral celebrants, I think. The majority of them are full-time celebrants that are out there doing this all the time. Some are still in full-time work somewhere, and so they're looking at this as something that they're going to pick up in their retirement. And a few people never really do anything with it because for whatever reason it wasn't right for them in the first place, or their circumstances change, or they just don't have the confidence to go out and to speak to funeral directors and to speak to the people that are going to help you to get work. So that's how really straightforward it is to become a celebrant. Do the training, go out. If you complete it successfully, go out and start marketing yourself. To become a wedding celebrant in Scotland, and the information I'm giving you in this video is relates to the work we do here in Scotland. If you're out with Scotland, then please go and talk to somebody that knows what they're talking about. But here in Scotland, when it comes to being a wedding celebrant, so when most people come to me and they say, I want to be a wedding celebrant, what they mean is, I want to be able to conduct legal wedding ceremonies. Now, that's really what's called a marriage ceremony, a celebrant. You're not really conducting legal wedding ceremonies, you're conducting legal marriage ceremonies. A marriage ceremony is a legal ceremony here in Scotland. And in Scotland, there are only two ways in which you can get legally married. One is by a registrar, and the other is by somebody who is a member of and acting in behalf of a religious or belief group. So let's talk about the former. We all know registrars. So what happens there is the wedding party goes along to the registry office, or indeed the registrar comes out to the couple's chosen venue and they conduct a legal marriage ceremony. Now, this is usually quite belts and braces. It's usually quite short and straightforward, template kind of driven, but couples can choose readings and such. And there may be restrictions on what you can or cannot have in your ceremony. But for lots of couples, they feel a registrar is the way to go, and that's absolutely great. The other group is the one where it's a bit more of a grey area. This idea that somebody has to be a member of and act on behalf of a religious or belief group. So what are those religious or belief groups? Well, the most obvious one are those people, those ministers and priests who are members of the clergy. So if you are a member of the Church of Scotland and you've gone to church all your life, or maybe you're non-practicing but you want to get married in the church, then you would go to your local minister or your local priest and ask if they would marry you. So that's the first group within the religious or belief group. But then you've got other numerous groups. You've got interfaith ministers, of which I'm one. So we are, interfaith ministers are part of a belief group. We believe that everybody is entitled to a ceremony regardless of what their religious or faith beliefs are. So it's all faiths and none. You get the humanist groups, so there's various humanist groups, and some people think humanists don't have a belief, but they do. They have the belief that we only live one life, and so we should make it a good life, and we should try to, live the best we possibly can be and be nice to each other, etc., etc. Because when we die, that's it. There's nothing else. So they don't have a leaning towards spirituality and the supernatural and, life after death, etc. And because of that, sometimes there are restrictions on what they can put in their ceremonies, because if you have a belief, then you should be adhering to that belief when you're conducting ceremonies. And you should be conducting ceremonies for people who also hold those same beliefs. So that's the humanists. Then you get Agnostic Scotland. So Agnostic Scotland are an organisation who believe, agnostics usually believe that you cannot prove one way or another whether God or, the sacred exists, and so they don't want to waste time thinking about that. They just want to go on and live a good life. You get the Pagan Society of Scotland. So that would be people who align with pagan beliefs, so very earthy, rooted in nature beliefs. And there are other sort of smaller groups that have their own belief, but because they're a group, and like us, say, interfaith ministers, we come together either online or in person. We worship, we explore ceremony, we talk about prayer, we talk about faith, so each of those groups will do that in their own way. They'll come together in their own way, they'll they'll explore their beliefs within their community. And because of that, they have applied to the Registrar General of Scotland to be able to conduct legal marriage ceremonies for other people who hold those same beliefs. So it's the organisation that's given the authorisation, not the individuals within the organisation. It's the organisation itself. But then that organisation nominates members to be able to hold legal marriage ceremonies on their behalf. So I've been nominated by the One Spirit Interfaith Foundation to conduct legal marriages. I don't get that. It's not Lindy's authorisation. I'm not given a licence and I have that forever. I, through the One Spirit Foundation, I'm nominated to go out and conduct legal ceremonies on their behalf. So whenever I do a legal marriage ceremony, I'm doing it on behalf of the One Spirit Interfaith Foundation. And it's the same for all those religious or belief groups. Whew. So what does that mean if you want to be a marriage celebrant? That means can't even talk. It means that you have to join one of those groups. And you have to join a group whose beliefs align with yours. So you might look through all these groups and think, you know what, I align with the humanist principles and outlook on life. So then you would apply to the Humanist Society of Scotland or one of the humanist organisations to become a member. And through that, in time, to be nominated by them to conduct legal marriages. And so the process within each of these groups is very different. So if you join the One Spirit Interfaith Foundation, it's a 2-year course through the ministry. Now, this is not to train you to be a marriage celebrant, it's to train you to be an interfaith minister. But at the end of that, you can then apply to the organisation to be allowed to hold ceremonies on their behalf. And that can take up to another year. So that's a 3-year process before you can actually go out and conduct legal marriages. If you're the Humanist Society of Scotland, I think it's every bit as long. I think you have to be a member for a year, and then you become a funeral celebrant, I think. You'd have to go and check this out because I'm not entirely sure. And then eventually, if they've got space and, you know, they take you on the course, you can go and train to be a wedding celebrant. That can take years. So there is no quick route to becoming a marriage celebrant here in Scotland. So if that is something that you feel you're being called to do, then you have to go and explore these different groups, these different belief groups. Think about which one aligns with you, and then you have to, you know, step into their world if there are spaces there, and then follow that process through. So just to let you know, no quick, no intensive course, nothing that you're going to do for 4 days and then you're going to be out conducting legal marriages. It just doesn't work like that. However, marriage ceremonies are the only ceremonies in Scotland that have a legal aspect. So there's lots of other ceremonies that you can be a part of without having to go through all that process. And that are things like funerals, baby namings, house blessings, coming of age ceremonies, betrothal ceremonies or engagement ceremonies. There's so many different types of ceremony that you can be involved in that don't have a legal aspect. So let's talk about being a funeral celebrant, because I get inquiries all the time, and as I say, I've trained 70 funeral celebrants to date. And being a funeral celebrant is a wonderful, wonderful role. It's a very rewarding role, a very life-affirming role. And it really makes you feel as if you're serving your community and the world in a really good way. But it's also a very challenging role. I get lots of people coming on the training thinking that it's going to be a very easy, they'll come in, they'll stand up, they'll read from a book, and I'll say, that's okay, you're a good speaker, okay, go and do funerals. And that's absolutely not, well, certainly not what my training is about. It's about teaching you all the practical skills that you need to be a celebrant. So how does it all work from start to finish, from phone call to funeral? How does that all work? How is a ceremony structured? What are the different ceremonies I might be asked to conduct? What's the difference between doing a ceremony in a funeral ceremony in a hotel and then the crematorium, or in the crematorium, or at the graveside? What's the difference between the celebrants and ministers that are out there doing these roles? Who plays the music? Wait a minute. What if they want photographs? Oh, they want a live web stream. So it's teaching you all these practical skills that you're going to need to know, but it's going much deeper. It's going much deeper because one of the aims of my training is to get you to think about the concept of holding space. And doing that in a way that is absolutely right for the family. And when I say holding space, we are bringing in aspects of faith and spirituality, or non-religion, if that's right. But there's all different things are woven through into that concept of holding space for people. We are looking for people who are really good communicators. And I don't just mean that you can get up and say, "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen." We are talking about really good interpersonal skills, great active listening skills, listening with your eyes and your ears. You will go out to family visits where there'll be 15 people in the room, and you have to be able to hear what everybody's saying verbally, but to watch what people are saying non-verbally, to watch the body language, what's happening in here. There's, I can tell there's tension in here. I can tell there's things being unsaid in here. You have to be really able to sit with that and to navigate that, and to still be able to keep your eye on the goal of getting all this rich information. You need to be able to ask the right questions. If you ask a question about somebody's life and you get an answer, it doesn't stop there. You need to think to yourself, wow, what else do I need to know about what the family have just told me there? How do I forage a wee bit deeper into this person's life be able to really pull character. And that's what we're trying to do when we're given a eulogy in a funeral ceremony. We're trying to pull out character. We're trying to really capture the essence of the person and bring them back into the room for a few minutes so the family can say their goodbyes. So it's not just, this is not a public speaking course. It's not a tick in the box exercise. There is nowhere to hide on Lindy's training. You are up behind the lectern within half an hour in the first day, and you will be up behind that lectern every single day, numerous times, developing, honing, really practicing all these skills and applying the feedback you've been given to really ensure that when you go out to do these funerals, you're going to be present. Not just there, you're going to be present. And you're going to be able to hold a room full of 100, 200, 300 people, and they're going to feel that you are present. And they're going to know unconsciously that you have them. You are holding this whole space. And they can just relax and focus on saying their goodbyes. So there are so many different elements to this training. We are looking for people who are already okay with working a computer. You are going to have to be writing documents and sending them to families. And you have to be able to do that in a really professional way, but also in a way that shows that you've brought heart to it and that you really care about what you're sending out to people. So not just Word documents with masses of words on them, but you have to be able to lay things out professionally with borders and with pictures and with headings. And so we're looking for people that already are comfortable with using Word and using email and different kinds of software. We're looking for that. We are looking for people who are open to learning from me and from each other. Usually there's a great deal of experience comes into the training space, and we want to utilise that. People who do less well in the course are people who come in thinking they already know it all, and they tend to kind of switch off because they're not open to feedback and they're not open to other people in the course, trying to help them to get better. That's not the culture I've tried to create. I want it to be very open, very supportive, but knowing that I'm going to wring every last wee bit of potential out of you. And we're looking for people who are coming into this for the right reasons. Not because you are fed up with your job and you're just looking for something else. Not because you need some money. You will never make a fortune in this work. You just won't. This is more of a vocation. It's a calling rather than something that's going to set you up for life. We are looking for people who are drawn to this because they want to serve the world in some way. Often we get people who've gone to funerals and it's either been a really great funeral ceremony and they want to copy that, or it's been a really bad ceremony and they want to do better than that, which is wonderful. We want you to come to it for the right reasons. So if you're somebody that's just thinking, I'm terrified of public speaking, but I want to get up there and make some money just by standing. Don't phone me, don't email me, just do what you're doing. But if you're somebody that really wants to make a difference in the world of funeral celebrancy, you're somebody that's creative and open to trying new things, you're somebody that's a really good communicator, but you want to get better, be a better communicator, because we can all get better all the time. And you're open to the different types of the training. So we're going to be doing role play, we're going to be doing discussions, you'll get homework, etc., etc. If you're open to all that and you really, really feel that you want to be a funeral celebrant, then hit that button, get in touch, get booked on the course, and let's go on this adventure together. Okay, I'm boring myself now. Thanks for listening.